So let's take a look at a graph or a couple graphs side by side about what this market now looks like, or what it looks like under these assumptions we've made. And then we can think about profit maximization and come up with a criteria. And it turns out we're going to keep using this criteria as we go to different market structures. This criteria, this profit maximization criteria. And it's going to relate to the marginal revenue and the marginal cost, because we're economists and we want to think on the margin. And so let's first, we're going to talk about profit maximization, but we're going to kind of first talk about what these markets look like, and then hopefully we have some room over here to kind of describe what we're trying to accomplish with this profit maximization, or how we do that, I should say. All right, so the first graph that we're going to draw on this side, we're going to have the market as a whole, and we have price and capital Q. So the price of the product and capital Q. So capital is going to refer to the quantity as the market quantity, all the firms added together. We're going to have price again, and this is going to be the individual firm over here. Price again, I'm just going to put a small q, because this is going to be the quantity that each individual firm is producing. And we're going to kind of assume that all firms are the same here. Okay, so let's first talk about this idea that the individual firms can influence the market price. So what the price the firms face is going to be determined is going to be by these big supply and demand curves. So the market supply curve and the market demand curve. So remember, the market supply curve is made up of all these individual firms added together. The demand curve is all the buyers of this product in general. And so this supply and demand curves for the market determine how much is produced in the market and the price in this market. And so remember, individual firms are price takers, they're not price makers. And so that means each individual firm faces the price that's determined by this market as a whole. So this is the price that the individual firms face. And so notice it's this horizontal line here. And so it doesn't matter how much they individually choose to produce. They always get the same price. So in each good they sell another one, they get this price that's determined by the market as a whole. Only changes in this whole market are going to change the price that each individual firm faces. And so if we think about it that way, then because it's flat, that means the price equals the marginal revenue, it equals the average revenue, because we're always getting the same amount. If we're a firm, for the first unit we sell or the millionth unit we sell under these assumptions, we're always getting the same thing. We're always getting this price. So this is kind of what it means for this price taker. We have this flat price. This is like the demand for that product for the individual firm is like flat. Right? That price is determined by the market as a whole. Okay, so now we've kind of talked about this idea that no market power means we have this flat curve here, this purple flat curve here, line here. Price equals marginal revenue equals marginal or average revenue, no matter what the quantity. We can think about adding those. Cost functions or cost curves that we kind of talked about last time or in the last module. Just trying to find a different color here. All right, so remember we had this marginal cost curve that went down in the beginning because of increasing marginal product, and then it started kicking up, right, because of that diminishing marginal product or decreasing marginal product. And then remember that cut through the minimum point of our average total cost curve. And it's supposed to be the minimum point there of our average variable cost curve. I'm not going to bother with the average fixed cost curve here. All right, so this is kind of the environment that we're looking at in these competitive markets. We have a big market over here, which is determining the price faced by individual firms. And we're assuming all these individual firms are the same and have those cost structures and that production structure, just like we talked about last module. So remember that marginal cost curve, that should be the minimum point should be crossing through the minimum point of the ATC and the ABC because of that, the average follows the margin. Okay, now we're ready to kind of talk about profit maximization. So remember profit, which we're going to denote as pi, equals total revenue minus total cost. Well, another way to think about total revenue, remember it's price times quantity. I'm going to put small q here because it's an individual firm. So that's another way of saying total revenue. Another way of calculating total cost would be, taking the average total cost and multiplying it by quantity. By the quantity they produce, right? That's going to be the same thing as total cost. Average cost times Q. Okay, which means that really we have P minus ATC times Q. This is our profit, right? This is another way of expressing profit. And that's going to be useful maybe when we think about an area we're going to draw on this graph. Because we have lines for price, we have a curve for ATC, and we have Q. So profit's going to relate to an area on this graph. Now when we think about how much, the decision for an individual firm is how much should we produce. So individual firms will choose Q. And so they're economists, so they're thinking, do I want to make one more good, or do I want to produce one more good? What's the benefit of producing that good? What's the cost? Of producing one more is going to be the marginal revenue, right? That's the benefit from producing and selling one more good, whatever goods we're looking at here, which is equal to the price, right? Because the price equals marginal revenue here. And then we think about the costs of producing one more. Well, by definition, that's the marginal cost. And so firms are going to produce until marginal revenue equals marginal cost, right? They're going to keep producing as long as marginal revenue is greater than marginal costs. And what that means is if they're equal, they're kind of indifferent towards this last one, right? But let's just assume they make it because they're indifferent towards it. But they're going to keep producing as long as this marginal revenue is above this marginal cost. So when they want to stop is when they're equal. And this is going to be the profit maximization criteria. So this is what we should be looking at our graph. This is what the firm should be looking at. And this is going to hold for, monopoly and monopolistic competition. It's the same logic. We want to look at what the benefit of producing one more good is and the costs. As long as the benefits outweigh the costs, we should keep producing. And the benefit of the next good is captured by the marginal revenue. The cost of the next good is going to be captured by the marginal cost. And so we want to keep on producing until marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So let's look at where this is on this graph here. Marginal revenue is this purple line that cuts across, right? Price equals marginal revenue. And then we have this ATC curve that goes up here. So this is how much this individual firm should be producing. So I'm going to put I'm not sure how much it's picking up, but this is like a little Q star is what I'm trying to write there. That's the decision the firm is making. Just like we had, market equilibrium price and quantity here. Now we have, this is how much the firm should be producing in the short run here. Now we can think about how to calculate profit. So that's how we figure out how much they should produce. And now we know how much they should produce. We can think about what this area is on this graph. Price minus average total cost times quantity. Well, here's the quantity they're producing. This distance here is price minus average total cost. So if I just go over to the side, so this is P minus ATC. That's that value. If we multiply it by Q, that means our profit is that rectangle there. So we decide how much to produce by figuring out where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Then we just need to find our ATC curve. Here we're going to go down. So we have this profit. Price is above ATC. So this is the width or the height of our rectangle. And then the other part of this area we're looking at is the Q, how much they're producing. So it's going to be this area here. So this is our profit. And since price is above average total cost, this is going to be a positive amount. If the ATC was above this price, then we're going to get a loss. But we'll kind of talk about those different scenarios in a bit.